The Retrobit Legacy GC featured in today's review was provided courtesy of Retrobit. The GameCube is the best failed console to ever hit the market. The system hosted an amazing first-party lineup and an interesting assortment of third-party exclusives. Adding to the system's versatility, Nintendo released the Game Boy Player add-on, allowing players to enjoy the full lineup of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance titles on a TV. A true sight to behold compared to the handheld's smaller screen. As amazing as this capability is, using the GameCube controller for extended Game Boy play has never been ideal. While the GameCube controller remains one of my all-time favorites, its smaller D-pad doesn't suit playing Game Boy games on a TV. While it is possible to physically connect a Game Boy Advance to the system with the GameCube to GBA adapter to play, the smaller D-pads are still less than ideal. This leaves dedicated D-pad focused options as the best possible add-on to make the Game Boy player experience the best it can be. Retrobit has released one such option with the Legacy GC, and it is hands down the best available dedicated option today. The Retrobit Legacy GC comes in a nicely colored, compact box with a glossy depiction of the controller on the front and its included color. The sides of the box further accent this color for a nice overall aesthetic while also listing some key features. To wrap it all up, the back further showcases some design elements of the controller in detail. Opening the box, you will find your Legacy GC and a thank you note from Retrobit. The Legacy GC bears a close resemblance to the USB Legacy 16 controllers Retrobit has previously released for the Switch and PC. The Super Nintendo-inspired shape and shoulder buttons, D-pad, and traditional GameCube face buttons make a great first impression for its use as a Game Boy player controller. Alterations have been made to the Legacy design for this controller, however, with an added ergonomic grip. The two slightly beveled edges on the pad don't seem like they would do much, but they are a game changer during longer play sessions, resulting in fewer hand cramps and less fatigue. Diving a little deeper, there are a number of extra touches that have been included. First is a select button, which is not present on GameCube controllers. Next are a pair of extra ZR/ZL shoulder buttons, and finally, turbo and clear buttons have been included above the start and select buttons. The Legacy GC comes equipped with a 10-foot cable, giving players tons of room to maneuver. As for the overall build quality of the controller, it is remarkably strong and thanks to its compact design feels solid in the hands. Everyday wear and tear are no problem for the controller, and more strenuous testing also proved to be little issue. It will be ready to play for years to come. Diving into the Game Boy lineup was nothing but a treat regardless of title or genre. The Legacy GC D-pad is excellent with each direction registering correctly and promptly. It is further amplified by its rollability, making it great for GBA racing and fighting games. Face buttons register promptly with no signs of a dropped input to be found even after numerous sessions and games. The Super Nintendo style R and L buttons are a highlight for the Legacy GC, and they make games that heavily rely on them far more comfortable over extended play sessions. The Mega Man Zero games are an easy example to point to for why these types of shoulder buttons are important compared to the crappy nubs found on a GBA SP or the more recent Analog Pocket. Doing quick repeated presses also blows away what a standard GameCube controller is capable of with its analog triggers. The previously mentioned select button feels great to have in a layout that is more traditional to Game Boy systems. On original GameCube controllers, the lack of a select button made it a necessity to map its input to the Y button to be used during play. On the Legacy GC, the Y button is mirrored to the select button to achieve this preferable layout. That being said, there are instances where the Y button might still be preferable for input purposes. The Y button is in a far more comfortable and accessible location. As for the new ZL and ZR buttons, they both take on the role of the GameCube controller Z button. You can use either to access the Game Boy Player's option menu. As for the included turbo functionality, I am personally a big fan of having it for shmups and other quick press titles. Mashing is not easy for me these days compared to the early 2000s, so having options to counter this is a huge plus for the Legacy GC. While the Legacy GC's main use case for most will likely be for playing Game Boy titles, this doesn't stop it from being an excellent controller option for D-pad-focused GameCube titles. Any number of fighting, racing, sports, or puzzle games can greatly benefit from the larger D-pad and form factor. Soul Calibur 2 is a downright blast to play with the enhanced precision of a D-pad. The Tony Hawk franchise likewise is best suited for a D-pad. With built-in macros, the Legacy GC's D-pad functions can be changed to register as both of the GameCube's analog sticks in addition to a D-pad. Because of this, compatibility extends to analog-only titles such as Super Smash Bros. Melee. This gives the Legacy GC an insane amount of usability with the GameCube library. Sadly, analog triggers aren't available, but for the types of games best suited to the controller, this isn't typically a problem. But the GameCube isn't the only system that can take advantage of the Legacy GC, as it is also fully compatible with the Nintendo Wii. Like the GameCube, any number of D-pad focused titles are a treat to enjoy, as well as any single-stick games that can be played with a GameCube controller. Because of its GameCube connector, the Legacy GC's compatibility extends further with support for the Wii U GameCube Controller adapter. This lets it work for Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and the Nintendo Switch. Switch natively supports the adapter, so it can be used for playing the NSO apps and other titles. Playing the SNES app is a hilarious example, but the GC button layout makes it a bit less than ideal. Link's Awakening Remake was far better suited to the controller as well as the Game Boy apps. As great as the Legacy GC is, it isn't without its quirks. When the controller is plugged in, it defaults to the D-pad registering as the GameCube's left analog stick. While not a problem in most use cases, there are times when a game can only use the D-pad for input, making it appear the controller isn't functioning. Swapping to D-pad mode clears up the problem. The D-pad and face buttons are a touch loud when pressed, but not overly so. They do come close to feeling a bit stiff, but so far it hasn't caused any issues during play. While the Retrobit Legacy GC isn't the first SNES-inspired pad to grace the GameCube, it is certainly the best option available today. The Hori digital pad from back in the day is obscenely priced and reserved only for the most diehard of collectors. Old School's more recent attempt was lacking with its D-pad performance and required modification to get the best results possible. Retrobit's offering by comparison is well priced with performance to match. While I acknowledge that a D-pad focused GameCube controller is more of a niche input option for the system rather than a must, it is important to get something that will get the job done. And with that said, any players that frequent the Game Boy library on GameCube can't go wrong with the Retrobit Legacy GC. And that is the Retrobit Legacy GC. I hope you have enjoyed today's review and look at what the controller is capable of and how much punishment it can take, because it is seriously a solid little guy. So, thank you once again to Retrobit for setting this one out my way to check out, and thank you to each and every single one of you who have taken the time to watch today's review. Really means the world to us here, and just always appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and call this review here, so be sure to hit that thumbs up, thumbs down button, depending on how much you liked it, as well as that sub button and notification bell so you can see when new videos go live on the channel. If you are interested in further helping support the channel, you can check out the Legacy GC in the link below using one of my affiliate links, as well as checking out that join button here on YouTube and the Patreon link in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Little goes a long way to keeping this place going and bringing all of this content directly to you. Big shout out to all of our current backers. Thank you so much for believing what we do here and helping us keep it going. You are truly amazing and spectacular. But until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, keep on gaming, and we'll see you back next video.